What if I told you that one of China's first self-made female billionaires didn't make her fortune from technology, property, fashion, or banking? She made it from rubbish, plain and simple rubbish. Not glamorous rubbish either, not antique watches accidentally thrown in a skip, not a Picasso hiding behind an old wardrobe, not a suitcase full of gold under a mattress. No, it was something much more common. Waste paper, old cardboard boxes, used packaging, scrap paper, the kind of stuff most people walk past, step over, or pay someone else to take away. And from that, Zhang Yin, also known as Yan, built a paper and packaging empire so big she became known as the Queen of Trash. Now, that nickname might sound like something your mates would call you after a bad weekend, but in business, it was a crown. And today, on Waste Business Pro, we're going to look at how she did it, and more importantly, what anyone in the waste business can learn from her story. Because this isn't just a story about China, it's a story about seeing value where everyone else sees mess. Most people look at waste and think, how do I get rid of this? Entrepreneurs look at waste and ask, who needs this next? That one question built a fortune. Zhang Yin didn't invent paper, she didn't invent cardboard, she didn't invent recycling. What she spotted was a gap. America had mountains of used cardboard and paper. China had factories making toys, shoes, clothes, electronics, and goods for the world. And every one of those products needed packaging. So while one country was throwing away cardboard, another country was desperate to make cardboard. That is not rubbish, that is arbitrage with a smell. Zhang Yin was born in 1957. Her early life was not a private school, trust fund, gap year in Tuscany type of beginning. She grew up as the eldest of 8 children. Her family faced hardship. Her father was imprisoned during the Cultural Revolution. She didn't have the smooth road. She didn't go to university. She went to work. And that matters. It matters for every entrepreneur watching this. Because a lot of people sit around waiting for the perfect conditions to start. Perfect economy, perfect website, perfect van, perfect logo, perfect moment. The perfect moment usually arrives dressed as hard work and wearing steel toe-capped boots. Zhang Yin became a bookkeeper. She learned numbers. She learned trade. She learned how business actually moves. Not in theory, not in a classroom, but through invoices, suppliers, buyers, margins, and trust. That is lesson number 1 for Waste Business Pro. Before you build a big business, learn the small details. The person who understands weight, grade, route, price, and buyer demand will beat the person who only understands, I want to be rich, desire is useful, but the weighbridge doesn't care about your vision board. In her 20s, Zhang moved into the waste paper trade. Now imagine telling people your grand plan, I'm going to get rich from old paper. Most people would laugh. They'd say, really, paper? That's your big idea? And that's the point. The best opportunities often look boring from the outside. Boring businesses build serious wealth because most people are too proud to touch them. Bins, cardboard, scrap, commercial clearances, packaging waste, recycling, collections, logistics, not sexy. But try running a city, a factory, a shop, a warehouse, a restaurant, or an e-commerce business without waste services. The rubbish always turns up every day, like tacks or seagulls near chips. Zhang saw that paper wasn't just waste, it was raw material, and that is the shift. Poor operators think this is something to dump. Smart operators think this is something to move. Great operators think this is something someone else needs. That's the waste business in one sentence. In 1990, Zhang and her husband Liu Mingcheng moved to Los Angeles and founded America Chungnam. They weren't starting with a giant corporate headquarters. They were knocking on doors, visiting scrapyards, building trust in an industry that didn't exactly hand out welcome hampers. The scrap trade can be rough. It can be suspicious. It can be full of old relationships, old habits, and people saying, we've always done it this way. Every industry has those people. They are usually parked directly in front of progress with the hazard lights on. Zhang had to persuade American recyclers to sell her waste paper. Then she had to move it across the Pacific to China. And this is where the genius comes in. Ships were coming from China to America full of products, but many were going back less full. That empty space was an opportunity. So she helped turn a trade imbalance into a logistics advantage. Old cardboard went into containers, containers went across the ocean. China turned that waste paper into packaging, and that packaging was used to ship more products out again. It was a loop. Waste became packaging, packaging became exports, exports created more cardboard, and the cycle continued. That's not just a business, that's a system, and systems are where the money is. By 1995, Zhang moved from simply trading waste paper into manufacturing paperboard. That was a huge jump. There is a big difference between being the person who finds the material and being the person who owns the machine that turns it into the next valuable product. That's like moving from man with van to owner of the transfer station. Same industry, different level of power. She co-founded Nine Dragons Paper with her husband and her brother. Now, let's pause on that name, Nine Dragons. That is not Dave's Cardboard Supplies. That is a name with scale baked into it. It sounds big before you even know what it does. And the company did become big, very big. Factories, paper machines, power, logistics, thousands of workers, massive production capacity. Zhang wasn't thinking in bin bags, she was thinking in supply chains. And for anyone watching this who wants to build a serious waste business, that's the mindset shift. Stop thinking only about today's collection. Start thinking, where does the waste come from? Who produces it regularly? Who needs it afterwards? What route makes sense? What contract repeats? What asset gives me leverage? What part of the chain can I control? Because if you only collect waste, you have a job. If you control the flow, you have a business. In 2006, Nine Dragons Paper listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. The market loved the story. Here was a company sitting right in the middle of China's manufacturing boom. Factories needed boxes, boxes needed paperboard, paperboard needed recovered fibre, and Zhang Yin had built the machine that connected it all. She became the first woman to top China's rich list, with her fortune estimated in the billions. The Queen of Trash had become richer than many people in glamorous industries. There's something wonderful about that. Because business has a funny way of humiliating snobbery. The person in the suit may look down on rubbish, right up until the person in rubbish buys the building. And that's one of the reasons I love the waste industry. It rewards usefulness, it rewards speed, it rewards people who solve ugly problems. And there are a lot of ugly problems. Overflowing bins, void properties, commercial waste, cardboard build-up, fly tipping, probate clearances, builders' waste, factories with material that must move. Nobody wants to deal with it. That's why they pay us. But this story is not a fairy tale with a cardboard crown and a happy ending wrapped in brown tape. Nine Dragons also faced serious problems. Debt, economic shocks, a global downturn, labour criticism, environmental pressure, changing regulations. In 2008, the financial crisis hit demand. Chinese factories slowed. The very global trade that had helped build the company suddenly became a risk. And this is important. Waste businesses can grow fast, but growth without control can bite. A bigger yard means bigger overheads, more trucks mean more repairs, more staff means more management, more contracts mean more compliance, more debt means more pressure. It's easy to fall in love with turnover. Turnover is the big number everyone brags about at the bar. Profit is the quiet number that pays your mortgage. Cash flow is the number that decides whether you sleep. Zhang Yin's story shows both sides of ambition, the upside of seeing a market before others do, and the danger of expanding when the weather changes. So what can we learn? Lesson 1. Waste is not waste until nobody wants it. Cardboard to one person is a nuisance. To another person, it is feedstock. Metal to one person is clutter. To another person, it is scrap value. A house clearance to one person is grief and stress. To another person, it is a paid job, reusable goods, donation value, resale, and a clean property ready for sale. Lesson 2. Follow demand. Zhang didn't just collect paper because she liked paper. She collected paper because China needed packaging. In your own area, ask, who has a repeating waste problem? Landlords, Airbnb hosts, restaurants, warehouses, retail parks, builders, apartment blocks. That's where the business is. Lesson 3. Logistics is a profit center. The genius wasn't just buying waste paper, it was moving it intelligently. In our world, that means route density, tipping relationships, driver planning, call handling, fast quoting, and not sending a van across Manchester for a £40 job unless there's a very good reason. Fuel is not a decoration, time is not free, and a badly planned route can eat your profit like a Labrador in a butcher's shop. Lesson 4. Brand matters. Queen of Trash was a nickname, Nine Dragons was a brand. It sounded powerful, memorable, serious. Most waste businesses sound exactly the same. Same words, same van pictures, same fully licensed line, same no job too small. If you want to stand out, you need a stronger story. Your brand should make people feel, these people know what they're doing. Lesson 5. Build systems before scale. If your business is chaos at £10,000 a month, it will be chaos with a nicer van at £100,000 a month. Systems first: quoting system, job sheet, payment process, waste transfer notes, customer follow-up, review requests, driver communication, tipping records, profit tracking. Boring? Yes. Important? Also yes. Boring things, done daily, make exciting bank accounts. Zhang Yin's story is fascinating because it proves something most people miss. The world is full of hidden value, but hidden value usually wears dirty clothes. It looks like cardboard, it looks like waste, it looks like a problem nobody wants. The average person says, that's rubbish. The entrepreneur says, compared to what? Compared to landfill, it's rubbish. Compared to a buyer, it's stock. Compared to a messy house, it's a problem. Compared to a clearance company, it's income. Compared to a single job, it's a transaction. Compared to a repeat commercial contract, it's a business model. That's the thinking we need in Waste Business Pro. Not just how do I get jobs, but how do I build routes? How do I build recurring income? How do I find better customers? How do I turn waste into value? How do I create a business that doesn't depend on me being on the phone every minute of the day? So next time you see a pile of cardboard, don't just see mess. See movement, see demand, see margin, see a lesson from the woman they called the Queen of Trash. Because Zhang Yin didn't become a billionaire by avoiding dirty work, she became one by understanding something very simple. The money is often hiding in the place everyone else is trying to get away from. And if this story has got you thinking, could I actually start something like this myself? Then watch our video next, how to start your own waste business. In that video, we break down the practical first steps, how to find jobs, price work, deal with tipping, avoid common beginner mistakes, and start building a proper waste business even if you don't have a truck, staff, or years of experience. I'll put the link on screen now, and you'll also find it in the description below. If you're interested in building a waste business, broker model, or local clearance operation, subscribe to Waste Business Pro. We study the people, systems, and strategies that turn waste into wealth. And remember, in this industry, rubbish is only rubbish when you don't have a plan for it.